Hello, everyone. My name is JD Calderon, and this is Of Mice and Wolves. There's only one slight problem, though. I'm missing the wolf. This guy, he's will hopefully show up a little bit later, but that's a whole other story. So, without further ado, let me bring in the guests, the important people. Yes. Start with Josh. How you doing, Josh? Please introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, Josh Nealis from Cutthroat Comics, as you can see there, if you know how to read, based out of Findlay, Ohio, and I like to claim that we're Ohio's most offbeat publishing company since 2015. Stick around for the show, and maybe you'll figure out why we say that.
All right, very good, very nice. What's up, Grant? Please introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Grant. I'm the creator of Beowulf and League of Cryptids, and now I have the sequel to Beowulf, which is called Beowulf Grendel's Curse, and that's on Kickstarter currently.
All right, cool. And we have Mr. Scott Harris.
Hey,
Please.
thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm Scott Harris King. I put out a bunch of series on Kickstarter you might be familiar with, the Crime Busters Quest, and right now I've got Cthulhu versus Uncle Sam number 1 and 2 are live right now.
Very nice. All right, gentlemen. So as it says, it's a comics workshop show. Although I'm down a workshop worker, that mother. Anyway, but anyway. So gentlemen, so I don't. Are you familiar with the format of the show?
I've been on the show before.
Okay. So, all right. What's up, Marvin? So, gentlemen, so who has an opening question that the rest of us can start, or has a problem that we can start asking questions about? Well, let's start with Josh.
Actually, mine isn't necessarily a Kickstarter question. I definitely want to hear Rob's answer for it.
Right.
I want to see if these two guys maybe have more Kickstarter related questions.
All right. So, Grant, you want to go first?
You know, I sent Rob a bunch of questions, and he never got back to me on which one he thought was the best. Do you want me to just pick which one?
Pick whichever one you want to talk about first.
Okay, and you said you wanted.
Give me anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be Kickstarter.
Okay, so as far as retail distribution, what do you guys moving forward? I don't know if you guys already distribute through Diamond or if you don't. Are you guys? Hey Rob, how you doing?
Good. Sorry I'm running late. My son's had basketball, so
don't ever let it happen again.
Thank you, Josh.
Off your own show.
Appreciate it.
Really. A basketball game is more important than this. Are you kidding me?
Did they win?
they did, yes.
No.
Okay, congratulations.
And yeah, my oldest started, so
Nice.
That's good. If they didn't win, I'd be mad. So anyways, what are your guys' thoughts on retail distribution? Is it still worth it? Are you guys going to look for alternatives to Diamond? What do you guys think?
All right, cool. Grant, before we answer your question, Rob, please hit your spiel because I was terrible at it. Go ahead.
Well, you started though. You say and then
we're past that part.
So we're not doing. So I'm Rob Multari. I am the creator writer of Nightwolf of Snowpaw and the Wolfpack Pups. And this is, of course, Of Mice and Wolves. And this is a workshop show that we will go through everybody's issues and try and figure out answers. That's the fast thing. So since you guys already covered most of that. And Grant, I did actually send your list to JD. But he never got his opinions back to me. So
I didn't know I was supposed
you were the wrench here, sir.
I'm the monkey in the wrench. All right, got you.
Anyway, yes. So we were talking. So before we get into what we think for Grant, I know that one's pretty straightforward. However, if anybody has any questions for Sir Grant, please ask them before we move along to the answer section of this Q&A.
All right.
Well, I guess I have a question. So it sounds like that you've been using Diamond and doing distribution to the direct market already.
Right. Do you want to know about my experiences with Diamond?
Sure.
First and foremost, they haven't been great. The amount of money that Diamond is willing to pay is really just slightly over the cost of printing. So even back when I was selling a lot of copies of my comic book, I really wasn't making that much money. And the number of comic books that I've sold has been drastically decreasing with each month. I would say even beyond just typical like drop off from issue number 1 to issue number 2. And then I just released my trade paperback, which fortunately through Diamond, the margin with a trade paperback is way higher than just a standard floppy comic book. But like I said, sales through Diamond have decreased to a point where it's almost like not even worth doing it.
Okay. So have you? I know you work with Marvin, so he does a lot of outreach to store buyers, guys who own comic shops, that sort of thing. Have you been doing a lot of outreach to comic book retailers?
I wouldn't say a lot of outreach.
Okay.
I do send out. I do have some comic book shops that are on my newsletter list, and earlier on, I did try calling stores and offering freebies like posters and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough. One last question for you now. The sales on the trade paperback, do you consider it? Are they high enough that you consider it worth doing through Diamond?
If I could do it over again, probably not.
Okay, fair enough. Anybody else got any questions?
So when you were going through Diamond, were you doing it yourself or were you going through Marvin, or both, kind of a combination of the two?
Well, I mean, technically it's through our publisher, Comicsburg.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I'm the one fulfilling the comic books.
Okay. So does anyone else have any other questions before we move on? No? All right. Josh, you want to go first?
Yeah, I can. So we answered all of Grant's questions, right?
Well,
he answered our questions for him.
Yeah.
Now we're kind of giving him our thoughts on whether we're going to distribute what we think it's worth it, and other alternatives and such.
Gotcha. So I'm asking my question now. That's what we're doing, right? Or we're
no. We're giving our opinions to Grant.
Oh, okay, gotcha. That's what I thought. Okay, I was like, lost me there. As far as distribution for myself, like, I pretty much like. People who own comic shops will find me at cons. That's most of what I've done so far. That being said, I don't have much of an answer. Although I will say that Lunar is the other one, right? It's on my short list of things to do before I start writing my next novel, to get into all that and start figuring that stuff out. So I don't have much of an answer, which why I'm glad you asked that, or you guys are talking about that. So I learned a little bit there just now. So thank you for that.
Scott, how about you, sir?
I mean, well, personally for me, I've never gone into the direct market. My sales, I don't think have been high enough. I just don't see any profit in it for me. I just see a lot of losses. So I made the decision up front to not try and get, at least at the point I'm at now, any kind of widespread like national distribution. If I'm going to go into the direct market, it's going to be more of a grassroots local effort. I mean, I'm lucky, I live near Boston, and there's probably 70 comic stores within an hour drive of my house. So there's lots of opportunities for me to just go to comic stores and do sort of a more of a local sort of thing. I just don't see a lot of, I never really saw, for me, any viability for that market, but particularly now with the stuff with Diamond. I was just reading today some stuff like about some of the newer things like Lunar. I know like Antarctic Press had a thing where they were basically saying that they haven't been able to get in with like Lunar and some of these new alternatives to Diamond. So for me, it would be if I was in a position where I was looking to do a broader distribution, I think I would be in a wait and see mode here. I don't feel like this is a great time to try and do something with Diamond. See if one of these other competitors sort of steps up for indie market. I'm a little skeptical that's going to happen though.
Okay. Cool. Rob, you want to go first or you want me to do it?
Good.
Okay. So, I mean, I've gone through the direct market. It's been a while. I mean, like since the early 2000s. But my experience with it is that there is room for growth. But as you know already, if you don't have your core costs under control, or if you just have an expensive printer, I mean, I know you're currently printing in China, right?
Yeah.
Right. And I'll be honest with you, if you don't make at least $1 per book for a floppy or however you want a regular comic book, you shouldn't even be trying to do it. If you're doing a trade paperback, obviously you're going to make a lot more than that, right? Because like you said, there's a bigger ROI in that. But again, if you're not selling at least 500 copies or anywhere from 250 to 350 or 400 copies, it's going to be hard to justify the costs on printing them, even in China. But, as far as like, do I think there's a viability to it? I still think there is. There's talk. Universal, the distributor from Canada, I heard on one podcast coming out of Publishers Weekly, where they may try to purchase the entire company, Diamond, outright, not just portions of it, because they were talking about buying the EU version or the European section of the company and the gaming version of portion of the company. But now they're saying that they may actually pick up the entire company. And if that is the case, that might be a big boom or a big boon for us, because I think they would be able to save the market. Lunar just doesn't have the capacity for it. Other than that, I mean, other than going grassroots, there are no distributors that are doing what Diamond does, because the smaller distributors that I've seen, it's all what is that? I'm forgetting the term, where they're just giving the product to the customer, to the retailers, and then collecting the funds afterwards. Whereas Diamond, they get your funds not upon sale, but upon but when they deliver the books. So, and there's a guarantee with Diamond, right? It's difficult because whoever comes in is going to have the money to be able to do that. And, unless Universal does it or Diamond's able to turn it around in some way and just be able to survive on 20% of what they used to have, it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. But I do think there is viability to it. But like I said, it's nobody said this game was easy. Nobody said this game was easy. So anyway, Rob.
Yeah. So my thoughts on it is, it's always been that like distributing to comic shops or finding a distributor, whether it be joining with another publisher who's larger or doing it myself one way or the other, that would be my next level up. However, I've always kind of like been of the mind that like you have to have a lot of printed copies to be able to do that, plus have on hand. And, you know, so that one, you have to have the upfront capital to produce the run for each issue. And then, then be able to put that out. So, you know, like JD said, unless you're able to survive on $1 per issue, you shouldn't be doing it. But also, I think what it also comes down to is like your own bandwidth. And like you said, you know, going to Tom, you're always invited. You just got to bring a new topic, sir.
We had you on. The new year, Tom.
I think he's just salty that he's not on every show like he is with Chris's.
Oh, that's what it is.
No, we do. We love you, Tom. But you know, going back to like Grant's question, weekly. Yeah. So I think, you know, your bandwidth, being able to reach out and contact, they still expect you to do that, even if you're being distributed through Diamond, right? So like I think a lot of people have a misconception on what distribution really means. Yeah, they get them to the shops if the shops are buying them from Diamond. So you still got to do all the legwork. You still got to go out there and advertise. You still got to talk to the shop owners. You still got to have the audience say, hey, I want this book in the shop in my pool box, right? So that's, you know, unless you have the bandwidth to do that, because you're not Marvel, you're not DC, you're not Image, right? So you are like like all of us. This is something for all of us. If you're not going in there and you're not talking to everybody and making those relationships, you know, they're not going to put your book on the shelves, even if you're in Diamond. You have obviously, if you're in Diamond, you have a better chance than anybody else, but still, you got to do the legwork to get it in there. You're still, you know, it's just like if you're working with a publisher, they expect you to promote your own book, you know? So that's just what it comes down to, is like, if you want to be distributed and go through Diamond or any other, if like, you know, Lunar opens back up, or if there's an alternative, or if somebody buys Diamond, whatever, you still have to put the legwork in, just like you do with Kickstarter, just like you do with your own online shop, just like you do at comic shops and Comic-Cons. You have to hustle your stuff no matter what. So what's your bandwidth? What's worth more, your time? What's worth more, your dollar? You know, going to Comic-Cons and getting 100% of that sale, or giving 90% of it to Diamond or whatever distributor, right?
Or consignment at a comic shop.
Or consignment. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, one thing that I do, and I like has been working for me, is I have retailer tiers in my Kickstarters. So I get new retailers picking those up. And then, like, you know, I'll follow up with them for like the later issues, you know, stuff like that, you know, but it's a small scale. It's not as big as like, you know, getting across the country or whatever, you know, in multiple stores. But, you know, I learned a big lesson during COVID shutdown. So I was in that group that Jen King put together. And I was like, okay, well, you know, I'm going to try and, you know, work this list of emails of retailers that they all were putting out there for us. Right. Well, 9 times out of 10, they wouldn't respond to those emails, or they're just like, oh, well, we're not interested, or whatever the case may be. So you're putting all that time and effort. Right. I realized, I'm like, why am I putting so much time and effort for something that's not actually going to help me produce more books, when I could be putting that time and effort into Kickstarter or my own website, right? You know I couldn't go to Comic-Cons, but I could control those two things. So that was just, you know, building your own audience the best way you can with the bandwidth you have, I think, is, you know, if you have the time and the effort, and you think it, you know, that's by all means distribute. I'm not saying not to, but I think there's levels of, you know, is it worth it to a certain extent when you're up this high, but when you're kind of in the middle or even starting out, I don't think it is.
Yeah, and let me just add it was consignment is actually the word I was looking for. When you have a distributor that distributes on consignment, and you know that's what they're doing, I would say no. Because the problem is that they usually have a hard time. Like, the retailers they give them to, they have no incentive to sell those books. okay? Because they didn't pay for them. You understand? So whenever they basically got it for free, right? If they sell it, they sell it. If they don't sell it, they don't sell it. So it's no skin off their teeth. There's just a little space on their rack. And trust me, you're behind 20 Marvel comics. Yeah. So you're probably not even going to get seen.
And it's up to you to follow up with them to find out if they even sold.
That's the problem.
No. Some of these distributors will do that on your behalf. But even then, it's like, like I work with one guy, and I had gotten some small check out of a small payment out of him, but I haven't seen anything since, and I've sent them 3 cases of books.
Yeah,
right?
There are a couple small shops around Pittsburgh that I'll do consignment with, but for the most part, I don't mess with consignment.
Right. Yeah. I mean, listen, if you know the retailer personally, that's different, right? So if they're a local guy to you, that's different. But if you're talking about, oh yeah, I'm gonna go around to 50 shops and just put your books on their shelves, it doesn't work, man. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I stopped doing consignment because I kept forgetting who even had stuff.
Exactly.
And that happens too. And then sometimes you go in there and you'll be like, oh yeah, I left you 10 books last week. I don't know who you are.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. There's that too. Yeah. They're like,
I had one shop. They were doing consignment for me, and I went in like, I don't know, a month later or whatever. And I was like, hey, just checking to see if you guys sold those books. And they're like, oh, we put them in the boxes over there. It's like, well, you put them in a long or a short box or whatever on a shelf. It's like, well, that's never going to sell in there,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the other thing is like, you can't just throw indies in a box. They'll never sell. Like that, like that. I think part of the problem is like, there has to be kind of like sales reps in a sense too, that like, if you're not able to rep yourself and go and try and sell these books to the, distributors / retailers, like they're, unless you have like the best cover ever and somebody's like, oh, I have to check that out. But 9 times out of 10, you're only seeing half the cover or just the title, right. On the shelves. So, you actually have to like, the retailer's just like, look, I'm going to just get what I can to get my money back. Right. I'm not doing your job to sell your books, so even if they do pay like pay the half off or wholesale or whatever it is, 9 times out of 10, they probably they have maybe like 3 to 5 books. They're just sitting there, at that point, they're still just worrying about getting rid of their lot of, the big 2 that they have, piling up. So again, unless you have a name that's going to draw to it as well, it's definitely a rough gig. And I feel like our focus could be done more, in other channels that actually profits us more to be able to produce more books.
All right. We don't know if that helped, Grant, but we hope.
So, you mind if I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so JD, you said that you used to do direct sales or the direct market.
Yeah.
What made you stop doing it?
Well, I'm old, one. So I started my first book I printed in 92. So that's when I started. And I was selling, and at the time, and I've said this plenty of other times. So at the time, we had 14 distributors. It wasn't just Diamond. There was Diamond, Capital City, Heroes World, Hawaii Express, it was Hawaii Distribution. There was 14 different distributors. All of them distributed everybody. And that's another portion of the industry that's really messed up right now. Is the problem is exclusivity. Nobody was exclusive to everybody. Marvel and DC sold to all these people. Pacific Comics, Epic, you name it. There was all these different companies in there, right? Me, as a 19-year-old kid, went in, printed up 6,000. Well, the orders were closer to like 4,500 books, right? Did no advertising. Nobody knew who we were, right? But we were in 14 catalogs with our little covers, right? And we were able to sell that many because there were 1, like 10 or 12,000 comic shops. 2, there were 14 different distributors, right? There was Capital City, they were the biggest one. Then there was Diamond. Then I think it was Heroes World, and it was like shit, I'm forgetting the other one. but it went down a stack list. Like I would get an order from Hawaii and he would be like, oh yeah, let me get 40 books. Right. And that was Hawaii distribution. That was the smallest guy. And then, but all over the country, you could sell stuff. So and to answer your question, the reason I stopped, because again, I was 19 years old, didn't know what I was doing. Me and my friends, we were doing these books. And we were releasing them as annuals. So it was in 92 was issue 1, 93 was issue 2, and then 94 was issue 3. And I guess, we kind of were like at 22, 23, like, damn it, we got to get jobs. Because, that's just the way it worked out. But that's why we stopped. Years later, Daphne and I went back and our sales just weren't high. At that time, Diamond had imposed, you had to sell X amount of books, like $1,200 worth of books. We just weren't selling in that metric at that time. We were probably closer to like $1,100. And they just ended up cutting us off, which was fine in the end. In retrospect, it was probably the right thing for them to do to us. It forced us to do other things, because at the time we were crazy going through comic shops. I mean, not comic shops, through conventions.
I mean, that kind of sounds like what Rob was saying, where if you want to sell through distributors, that's one thing, but the focus still needs to be on Kickstarters, because that's where you make the real money.
Currently, yeah, because unfortunately, I mean, I have a lot to say about Diamond and the way they did things in the industry, and like that's a whole nother show. I could sit down and have. I wish, like, if it was me, Randy, and a couple other heads who were around at that time, we could wax poetic for hours, because it's one of these things where it's just you just like. Randy worked at Arrow Comics at a point where they were selling 40,000 books, of a black and white 32-page comic. I mean, 40,000 books. Randy's been there, man. And I mean, and once you taste that, it's hard to pull away from that, So yeah, man. I mean, yeah, Kickstarter right now is definitely the way to go.
And put an emphasis on the right now, because things could always change. Things come and go. But yes, right now, Kickstarter definitely is probably the thing to focus more on than other places.
Right.
Not saying that you can't try other things. I mean, definitely experiment.
Yeah.
But the main focus should still be, if you can't get to a Comic-Con every weekend or every month, Kickstarter is definitely the larger, it also depends on how often you do it as well, too. I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully that helped, Grant. Sorry. So
it helped me. So,
Thanks, guys.
Well, at least we're helping somebody.
Hopefully we're not depressing everyone. Jesus. So who's next? Josh or Scott?
Flip a coin.
You can go ahead, Josh.
All right. So I actually just kind of wanted to get people's feelings on what I refer to in my own head as the dark side of Kickstarter. Two little scenarios, and I just want to see if you guys feel the same way about them as I do. The first one is the other day. So I've got a Kickstarter going, obviously. And I posted about it on my own page, my own Facebook. And I got a comment from somebody, and it said, "Hey, this looks cool. You should go back my book." And they wrote their title in there. And I was like, who's this person? And I'm sure like me, you guys get random, ads from artists and writers and all this stuff. And usually I'm like, yeah, we got mutual friends, whatever, cool. So I'm like, I don't remember ever seeing this person. So I click on their thing and we're not even friends. Never even talked to this person, and they're commenting on my thing that people should go back their Kickstarter, and I don't even know this person. So I deleted the comment.
Yeah, I would have done the same.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So continue, sir.
Yeah. So that was an overstep. Obviously, I felt, I was like, at least say hi. So the next one, a little bit longer of a story. Guy adds me, And then I completely forget that they added me because they never talk to me. They never even post anything. About 1.5 to 2 years later, I get tagged in a post. And I'm like, what is this? And who is this person? And it's for their Kickstarter that they're running. So I was like, I never even talked to this person. I just untagged myself, whatever, not a big deal. And then like the next day or maybe 2 days later, tag me again. So I'm like, I commented on it very politely. I said, hey, I don't have anything to do with this comic book. Please don't tag me in it. And untagged myself. And then they deleted me. And I felt that was kind of crappy that you would add somebody just so you can tag them in your Kickstarter posts 2 years after you've never spoken to them once. And then that person actually like 6 months ago tried to add me again. And I was like, yeah, no. Am I wrong? Am I crazy? Am I a dick? Like, am I not playing the Kickstarter game correctly?
So basically what you're asking about is our thoughts on the ethics of promoting your Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have any further questions or any questions at all for Josh to help?
I just got one thing to say. Josh, you're a dick for calling me out like that.
Yeah, I just follow up. So is this? I'm just wondering what platform is this on? Facebook that this was happening?
This was, yes.
Okay. Well, I'll say like, I only have a Facebook account for the comics. I deleted my personal account. Everyone on my friends list are other comic creators or whatever. There's a lot of things about Facebook that I strongly dislike, but for me, both of the things you're talking about are kind of a little more Facebook problems than necessarily Kickstarter problems. There's problems that I have with people contacting me and doing things on Kickstarter. But in terms of Facebook, so for instance, if I'm trying to like highlight a post or whatever, the way Facebook, I forget if it's what the tag is. I think it's just highlight maybe. I'll get notified that it'll be like so-and-so mentioned you and 38 other people. When I've tried that, what I've discovered is it basically picks. So I've got 1,500 people on my friends list. If I use that tag, it'll pick a random group of 50 people from my friends list and will tag them. It won't tag all 1,500, but it picks them at random. So I don't actually know who it's notifying that I've mentioned them on my post because I'm not actually mentioning anyone specifically. So that may be what's happening here is that they've put like a highlight and Facebook has just chosen you at random to notify you that you were mentioned in it. It's hard for me to say without actually seeing the post, but that's happened to me a number of times where it's like, so-and-so mentioned you. And usually nowadays when I get a notification says that, I don't even look at the post because I know that it doesn't actually have anything to do with me at all. That's just one of the many ways that I don't like Facebook. But as for the other thing, I actually just saw something.
Do you have any questions for him before we kind of continue into the answering?
Yeah, no, I guess that's it. Sorry.
Okay, so no worries. I always have to rein in JD too.
Yeah, I don't think this was that because I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I've seen that in like groups and stuff where it'll say like at everyone or something like that. This was like me and 99 other people because I think that's the max you can tag, right? Something like that.
That sounds legit.
Yeah.
Yeah, some weird arbitrary
Yeah.
Grant, do you have any questions for Josh, or shall we let Scott continue on with his answer and then move around?
No, I think if you want to finish your answer, since you already started.
All right, Scott, please continue, sir. My apologies for interrupting.
No, it's fine. I was just going to say that in terms of the other thing you mentioned there, I haven't experienced that myself, but I just saw it the other day. When I was on one of the many Facebook groups about indie comics where someone posted something about their comic and the first comment was someone saying, "Oh, this looks cool. You know what else is cool? My comic." And they're basically trying to hijack other people's posts. It's extremely rude.
I wonder if it's the same person.
When I see something
there's
like
actually
that,
a lot of them out there. So
when I see something like that, I make a mental note, and sometimes actually I have a list of people to avoid, but I make a mental note to myself, whatever that guy is doing, I'm not going to work with that person or cross promote with that person, because it's extremely rude to do that. So I think they're just shooting themselves in the foot, but it's totally out of line as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Same thing as cold messaging people that are in groups that you don't even know. Yeah.
Yeah, just reaching out in the DMs. That's not cool.
I do that all the time. But it's to invite them on my show, though.
But that's a benefit to them as well as you, JD.
Usually it's not even a benefit. It's just a benefit to them. But,
Grant, do you have anything for Josh?
Yeah, I mean, at some point, pretty much everybody has done what you're saying. I would say the nice thing about social media is that it's relatively easy to just ignore people. Like if somebody gives you the you back my comic book, I'll back yours, I'm all right with that. What I don't like is 6 months after your Kickstarter's done, people emailing you and being like, hey, I have a Kickstarter out, and I backed your Kickstarter. In other words, implying like I'm somehow obligated.
It's a tit for tat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like feeling like that either. It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think again, it's all about like, having kind of like a moral compass with it too. Like, again, I'm a big against DMing. If you DM me, I don't care who you are. If I was planning on backing it, I probably won't. Or even if I did back it, and you definitely, if you DM me saying to back it, then I'm gonna be like gone. Yeah, if you hijack a post, you're done. So don't be rude, because one, that just, like, Scott said, kind of shoots you in the foot on that. And and when it comes to like, you want to, the tit for tat thing is, if you agree to that up front while you're, that's one thing.
Right.
Like, I try to back as many people as I can at the time. I can't back everyone, so I'll post like on my page, hey, I can't back everybody. There's 1,000 Kickstarters running. Please post your link, inviting people. That's one thing. I think sharing is a good thing as well. But I don't expect anybody to back my stuff. I don't expect them to expect me to back their stuff. Especially right now, having some financial issues with my company that I work for going under. So I'm not going to be backing a lot of things. So if anybody's out there expecting me to, not. So, you don't know what other people are going through. You don't know how many Kickstarters they have a budget for, right? So as us as creators, right, we probably, have a budget of what we're going to spend on Kickstarter, unless it's something that we really have to have, then we're just like, the budget's gone. But when it comes to like backing each other's stuff, I try to like, limit it as much as I can. Like I try to back, especially if it's somebody new who's been trying to get something where, I'll try and back them. If it's a friend, I'll back them. If it's a project that like, it's somebody that I'm, have mutual friends with or whatever, and we have mutual respect, I try to back. But again, if it's to the point where I'm like, okay, I can't back you, but I will share your stuff, but then don't try and make me feel guilty for not backing, and I think it's kind of that golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you, if you will.
Yep.
If they like people like being dicks to them and saying, "Hey, I'm going to hijack your post," I'm going to DM you. Like, yeah, you definitely want to stay away from people who just do swarmy things like that.
Yeah. I just want to make sure I was not just a bigger jerk than everybody else.
No, man, no, they're the jerks.
Yeah.
JD, how about you?
I agree with everything everybody had to say about it. I mean, I don't think you have anything. Yeah, Josh, you're fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
don't feel
You're not
obligated.
a jerk, sir. You're not a jerk. But yeah, I mean, we all know how tough it is to promote. I just think people need to figure out better ways to promote. You know, like sometimes I will cold DM someone trying to cross promote, right? So that's something you could do. It says, listen, I saw
Oh, yeah.
your,
That's something I'd be totally fine with.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
It says,
something like
I
that.
saw your campaign. It looks, I'm doing a fantasy campaign. You're doing a fantasy campaign. Maybe you'd like to do a cross promotion, or just a cross, update thing,
Or even when you put out a message through your Kickstarter with links to other people's Kickstarters. I
Yeah,
think I've done
yeah,
that before too.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
just remembered I need to try to do that.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
Right.
I think, along the lines of that too, is to people have to realize too, is that if you are a Kickstarter creator, you're not technically the artist or the audience of another Kickstarter creator. Yes, we do back each other's stuff often, but really you want to find your audience and promote to them properly, not bogart somebody else's.
Right.
Well, and also, I mean, I can't financially back every single one of my friends' books, because at some point you look at your friends list and you're like, oh my god, every single person on my friends list has something that they're, especially because I literally have a giant box of to read books, which, I mean, I'm never going to be able to read all the books that I have currently,
I don't think you're trying hard enough, sir.
I was going to say you're doing well to just have one box. I mean, I've got.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm up to 3. Plus, my bookshelf is starting to fill up with trades.
I got
back issues. I've probably got 3,000 or 4,000 back issues that I've bought that I haven't had a chance to read yet. So one box sounds pretty good to me.
We've got issues.
See, I got you all beat. I have Ewoks #1 sitting on my table, and it's been sitting there for like 3 weeks. I have not read it. That's it. That's the only book I haven't read.
Oh, okay.
So,
Good for you.
Argo makes a good point too, because the people who will hit you up and be like, "Hey man, I backed your comic book and you didn't back mine." Those are usually the guys who don't have like any cheap tiers, and that drives me nuts. Like, you should have at least one tier that's under $10.
Yeah, or like a digital one for $5 or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Or the $1. Okay, I'll throw you $5 or whatever. But again, I think like lately I've been more choosy. Well, at least before the whole job situation, I was starting to get choosy, and then I was like, okay, maybe I should wait for the trade. Because at one point I was like, I'm getting the single issues and I'm getting the trade. This is crazy, So, but yeah, I mean, as much as I want to help out at this point, it would be mostly shares for me until hopefully in the near future when something changes.
My boss just told me today we're hiring, so if you want to move to Ohio.
Unfortunately, I am landlocked to this area because of I
almost commented on your post about that, and I was like, it's not even a fun joke right now, probably. So, decent job though.
Well, can it be done remotely?
It cannot.
There you go.
If it's anything like yours, I know you drive around a lot.
Yeah, this would be fixing chairs for dialysis centers.
Yeah, I'm probably not qualified for that either.
Yeah, it's actually not that hard, but it'd be all over the place.
Yeah. All right. So, Josh, we hope that helped.
Yeah, I feel better about my self-esteem.
All right, good. Because, you're not a jerk. Man. You're cool people.
Because you're not a dick and you have a job.
Yeah.
At least I can laugh about it until later when I'm off screen. I'll be crying about it.
Yeah, you'll find something, dude. You'll find something.
Thanks.
God, I hate to ask. Did you get Severance?
No, God. So it's so bad and so bankrupt that the owner is taking out of his own 401k to make sure everybody gets their last pay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks.
Hopefully, man, this will be one of those things where it's like bad now, but it'll turn out later in life. You know, a year or two from now, you'll be like, this was the best thing that happened, that it forced me into something new. I've had that happen a bunch of times. I hope that happens for you, dude.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping either I land another great job or that somehow this comic book thing takes off.
That'd be nice.
But, I think just based on experience, I better keep applying.
Like I was telling Grant, this is not an easy thing to do. Like, remember what Jack Kirby said: comics will break your heart, kid. Right?
Certainly.
Yeah.
And working for somebody else who apparently isn't good with money.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, enough of my woes. Josh, does that answer your questions then, sir?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
We're good.
Scott, what do you have for us, my good sir?
Well, so the issue that I've been having recently is I've been really struggling to get new eyes on my campaigns. So I've been on Kickstarter for almost 6 years now. I've done 16 campaigns. And up until about a year ago, it was pretty consistent that my campaigns would generally be probably 60 to 65% returning backers and like 35%, maybe 40% new backers. And last year, though, all of a sudden, it just seemed like I couldn't get anybody new to even see the campaign. So, for example, typically, very consistently for, say, my first 13, 14 campaigns, my conversion rate for my followers was almost always exactly 30%, sometimes 27%, right? The last campaign that I had for my Fantasy Comic Quest number 4, which was in October, instead of having like, say, 65% returning backers and 35% new backers, 91% of my backers were returning backers. I had 132 backers, and I think only 10 or 11 of them were new. All the rest were returning backers. And so my conversion rate on my followers ended up being almost 50%, because everyone that was following the campaign was basically my returning backers. There were people from my mailing list, people from my previous campaigns. I've been having a lot of issues with just getting the word out. Like, people aren't seeing that the campaign is there. I can kind of tell this from the metrics. And, I've been noticing things like my Instagram engagement is way down. They're throttling the posts. Same with Facebook. It's like the more I post about the campaigns, the fewer and fewer and fewer people see them. So I'm getting things where, I've got, say, 680 followers on Instagram. If I post on there, I usually only about 25 of them see the post. Same with Facebook. I'll post about it. I'll get like 1 like, 2 likes, no comments, no shares. People just aren't seeing those posts. And I'm seeing that across the board with everything. And so I'm trying to figure out new ways to get eyes on the campaign, because like a lot of people, big problem I'm having is that when I'm having my returning backers come, they already have all the previous issues. So my per backer
average pledge
is very low. And if I bring in the new backers, they have a much higher, because they're getting like all the back issues. So right. I really need to have a steady flow of new people coming in, and I just am stumped doing it. Now, having said that, one thing I should say, because I know I'm going to be asked this, I made the decision at the beginning to basically do this sort of grassroots. I haven't done any paid advertising at all. Mm-hmm. But all the various grassroots sort of social media, whatever, they just all seem to have died in the last year, and I'm stuck as to new strategies. So that's my question, is like, what can I do to get new eyes on it?
Okay. Does anybody have any follow-up questions for Scott to be able to help him workshop this?
I have a couple.
Okay.
So Scott, other than Facebook and maybe Twitter, are you on any other types of platforms? Blue Sky, Reddit, TikTok. Are you in any of any of these other spaces trying to find new readers?
Yeah, so I'm not on a Twitter, but I'm on Blue Sky. I've got 500 followers on Blue Sky.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working on TikTok quite a bit for the last, say, 4 months or so. I've got, I think, 750 followers on TikTok. My main thing has been my YouTube channel. Now I mostly talk about back issues, but I also talk about, my comics as well. Like I'm simulcasting this here. I've got almost 1,200 subscribers on YouTube. And yeah, so, and I'm active on Reddit, although not that active. So, I comment here and there in various sub forums. I'm more active in the back issue, like the comic collecting sub forum, but things like the comics writing sub forum, I'm relative, I've posted there a number of times talking about the comics that I'm making and stuff like that. So I have a small presence on Reddit, but not that active.
Okay. Do you have an email list that you've been building up? And do you use if you do you use like a freebie, a giveaway to like incentivize with a landing page for them to sign up for your list?
Yes, and sort of. So I've kind of done the same thing with the mailing list as with the advertising in general. Like I haven't done any like big giveaways. I haven't like subscribed to things where I'm just getting like 5,000 random emails because they want to get the free thing.
Right.
Because I really have been focusing on trying to get like the engagement. So I've mostly been collecting the emails from my Kickstarter campaigns. I do have a landing page where I try and push people to it through some of my other social media. And if they sign up, they'll get like a free PDF with, Crime Busters #1, or I forget exactly what I have in there. So, right now my mailing list, it is still very small. I've got about 430 people on it. I have really good engagement. Like my last couple emails, the open rate was been about 50%, I think, recently.
Yeah, that's actually really good. That's
So,
I think they say the average is like 30%. So 50%.
Yeah, I've been
really
doing around 40 to 43%, but I recently removed about 60 or 70 email people that had never opened any of them.
Yeah.
And so the rate now it's up to about 50%. And that seems to be where most of my support comes from. So like, again, I was very happy with how many people came back for the last issue of Quest. I've done 4 issues of that series. My backer count it was like 143, 134, 142, and 131. So almost exactly the same. And this last time, again, of those 131 people, I think something like 119 of them were returning backers, 120. So the people that are reading it are coming back. I just can't get anyone new to see it. Yeah.
Okay. Grant, do you have any questions?
No, I mean, I think he was pretty thorough.
Okay. Josh, how about you?
Can I have your email list?
Now that's a dick move.
Under the canned spam laws, I don't think I can give you my email list.
But you can cross the DMs.
Yeah.
Cross,
True.
yeah.
There you go.
JD, do you have any more questions? I have one more that I can think of, but if you have one, I'll let you go first.
No, ask yours. I'll ruminate.
Okay. So when you're doing, you have like for the Crime Busters, you said you're giving an issue away for that when you're having them sign up. Do you have another one that's for the quest?
I haven't, although I've been thinking about doing that. And also like with Cthulhu versus Uncle Sam, for instance, I've only got the 2 issues out. One of the reasons I'm doing my current campaign, which is to reprint them with new covers. But I'm also doing it because I want to sort of remind people this exists, because I've just started working on issue 3, so that'll be out later this year. So I'm trying to bring it around. So, I've been thinking about doing a quite large PDF that'll basically have the first issue of all 3 of those titles in there. But at the moment it's just Crime Busters that's available.
Okay. And are you using MailChimp, or what are you using?
Yeah, I'm using MailChimp. So that's one of the reasons I had deleted those dormant accounts. I'm still on the free version of MailChimp, which capped it currently at 500 subscribers. Okay. So once I got up to like 490, I was like, well, I know a lot of these people aren't even reading it. So I just cut out the dead weight to get back under that.
So it might behoove you to separate those into 3 different landing pages. Just for the fact that like those are 3 different titles that are going to have 3 different audiences. I think that you're able to make tags. So like whatever landing page they come in the funnel, where you could set it up that if they come in from this one, they are tagged with, let's say, Cthulhu because they're backing Cthulhu versus Uncle Sam, or Quest because they're going for the Quest, and Crime Busters. You could tag them however you want. And then that way, if you have, obviously you want to hit up, like when you're starting your wind up for whatever campaign you're doing, it makes sense to then like say, hey, I'm going to put this first issue out of this campaign a couple months ahead to build up that email list. And then right before, obviously, when you go to launch, hit your entire list just to try and get as many people in as you can, and then kind of like do a little couple focus ones on the tagged that is whatever title that is, and then in the middle drop a big one if you need to try and get a boost or something, but yeah, that's just kind of like building email, which should help in a way, because email sort of helps to make or break a campaign in a way, as long as you're building up your audience, because people come and go from right. Like you said, Instagram, you're not getting as many. Facebook, you're not getting as many. Trying to pull these people from different places into your list is really, then they're centering around you, right? So I think that's something that will help you prior to your launches. Now, that's not going to help you now, but that's something always to consider. Before you launch, you always need to go into audience building mode with your email list. That's just something, you don't want to go, to a party and not have, the list to invite guests, right? You don't want to just be the host and not have anybody coming. So even if, you want to make sure, because we all have attrition too, right? We lose backers, we lose people followings. So we want to keep bringing back new people. They are the lifeblood of us continuing to read, as well as the stable body of our current readership. But you always need new blood, like kind of like dialysis, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of like my main thoughts on what to help you with in the long run. Does anybody else have anything before I do more of the kind of like what you can do with Kickstarter now?
All right, because I don't know. It sounded to me like you answered the question before the question round was done, Rob.
What did I? Because I asked everybody if they had any more questions, and then I said I'm going to ask.
No, it sounded like you answered though. Just fine. Yes, I got one. Got Rob to break
You
the
have
rules.
another question, JD?
Well, yeah, there was this one thing about. Okay, so normally I run the Oswald Chronicles, which is my magical mouse book, but I also have something like Magi's Grace, which is a completely different thing, completely different audience, right? Especially since this book is something like 11 or 10 and up, right? And that book I sell with nude covers, sexy covers. I went completely. There's foul language in the book. I went completely shameless with the book, right? Now, the thing is my question to you is have you looked at the comparisons between your different campaigns, like Rob was asking, because they are different groups, and you're gonna find some are gonna be a little bit higher on one end. Because I know you had a Mannix cover that he had done for you for one of your other campaigns. Really nice looking cover of a young lady with holding a sword and she's wearing armor. Did you see the metrics on that were maybe a little bit higher because you had a young lady on the cover? She's not nude or anything. Sometimes you just need a pretty face and a great illustration. So
Carissa Grant with her latest Western Supernatural,
exactly
that one very sexy cover of her main character, or one of her main characters, and that brought the boys to the yard.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, have you looked at like those parallels? You know what I mean? And maybe tried to like with something like Abraham Lincoln versus Cthulhu, it might be a little hard to work that in, right? But which I understand. But I mean, have you looked at those comparisons and tried to make those comparisons?
Kind of, if I understand the question right. So, I mean, one of the reasons that I started Quest, besides the fact that I just wanted to tell the story, is because with Cthulhu versus Uncle Sam and Crime Busters, even though they're different styles, they sort of take place in the same universe, so they're sort of connected.
Right.
But I felt like that audience was getting a little fatigued as I was putting more and more stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
So I started Quest to try and attract a totally different audience. So my idea was to sort of alternate between the two, so I'd have sort of different bases that wouldn't be as exhausted. And that sort of worked. But it means that I have almost no crossover between those two audiences, even though when I do my mailing list, I'm like, hey, here's all the stuff I'm doing. The reality is that there aren't even that many people that get both Cthulhu versus Uncle Sam and Crime Busters, even though they're connected. The people
that's common though. I mean, if you think about it, and JD and I both kind of have a similar situation, whereas like with Nightwolf and Snowpaw, you think werewolves, right? I only have 50% of my audience who will back both.
Right.
And then JD does, with Oswald and Tall Tales, and then with Ego Raven for Daphne, like that, there's barely any crossover between there, and they're all fantasy,
Yep.
Yeah, but to be specific, like, the main character of Quest is the female character, so she's kind of highlighted on most of the covers.
The Carlos Herrera one was gorgeous, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I every issue I have, I'm bringing in like a new sort of artist spotlighting with this virgin cover, and basically, I mean, I haven't brought in like any like huge names or anything, but in terms of the metrics, it hasn't mattered. My overall backing has been the same, but also the backing for those covers, like at that level, it's been almost exactly the same, regardless of like which character's on the cover, who's drawing it. I haven't really noticed any difference. Like with Crime Busters, it's a little different because that's sort of like a Scooby-Doo sort of thing. It's drawn more in Archie style. So that's not something I would have like a sexy cover or anything on like that. But I do a lot of variants, mainly just because I like doing them. Because as I look at the metrics, like had to see how the covers are doing, And honestly, from issue to issue, the numbers are almost exactly the same, regardless of what the cover is, what the subject of the cover is, and who's drawing it. They seem to be the same. The only cover I've had that really was sort of an outlier, and I've sold out of it, was a cover I did that was an homage to Hulk 181. That was it. Other than that, it almost doesn't seem, for the way I've been doing it so far, hasn't moved the needle either direction. It's just sort of like people like the concept of the cover block that I'm doing, but the specifics haven't really moved anything. And that could change. Like, so let me ask this: some of you may have more experience with this. Like, I've considered bringing in sort of more expensive, popular artist who maybe has like a large following in social media. The people I've been using, I've loved their artwork. I haven't noticed any kind of boost from their fans or anything from any of them. So I've contemplated trying to figure out like which artists, have the big fan bases that are really engaged, and maybe spend more money to hire them to try and get those people to come in. I don't know if that like would convert into people that would only buy that person's cover, or whether maybe they would stay for other issues. Like, I don't know if anyone has any experience trying that sort of thing.
That's really hard to say. I mean, you guys mentioned Carissa Grant before, and I did notice that this most recent Kickstarter, she really jumped up, and she's crediting all of it to the one cover. I mean,
she did a lot of variants with that too. Like, she did like metal, different cover. Like, she did a lot of like limited exclusives. And it was focused a lot on that particular cover. So I think there is merit to what she's saying as far as that. But continue, Grant.
I'm wondering how much of it has to do with what you were saying. I mean, if you're suddenly charging, like $40 for a metal cover, I mean, yeah, your Kickstarter is going to make way more money. But then you also have to think, like, I mean, I stopped doing Chrome covers because I realized, like, I mean, they're so expensive, and like, yeah, you can push that expense onto the customers, but at some point, it's like, are you really making that much more money? You know what I mean? Like, really, what is it accomplishing other than being just like a super impressive Kickstarter? You know what I mean? Because like if it costs you like $11 to print a metal cover, and you're only selling them for like 15, you're really not making a bunch of money.
Well, I think Carissa was selling for $150.
Oh, okay. Well then. Yeah, that's different.
Yeah, she, like I said, they were like super limited. Like, she didn't order a lot of them.
I mean, I sell them for $75.
But you also have to take into consideration, like, a lot of these printers have minimum numbers that you can.
Not the one I use. The one I use will allow you to do one, one of one, and if you want, I'll let you know who he is after the show.
Well, so to speak to the question, I think here, for instance, with Quest 4, I had Erwin J. Rosa did a cover for me. You guys are probably familiar with his work. Love his art. When I do my variants, I have like certain variant slots. So like I have like every issue will have this type of variant that has a different artist or whatever. With Erwin, I had 3 different versions of his cover available. There was one that was available at a $13 price point. One was $25, and that one was limited to only 50 copies printed. And then I did a metal at $59 that was limited to 25 copies. And again, with the previous issues, I've had the same sort of price point slots, but with different things. I had essentially the same number of backers at each of those levels as I have with the previous campaigns. Maybe one or two more people at $25 level, but basically the same as with issue 3 with a different artist and with issue 2 with a different artist. It didn't really the different price points, with the more expensive versions or whatever, none of that really changed from one issue to the next.
It didn't move the backer count up.
No,
Right.
It didn't change anything.
I think it depends on the artist too. Let's say if they just have a social following, but that doesn't translate to Kickstarter following, I think part of that gaming the variant cover is finding a talented artist who's not overly expensive, who is very popular on Kickstarter at the moment. So that's kind of like, you want to be like, hey, one, you want to judge your budget. You don't want to go past too far because, you could go far but not make a difference on how many backers it brings in if it doesn't pay for itself. The other thing is, like I said, the following on Kickstarter, if they have people who back just for their cover, that still may not mean that they're bringing to the next campaign that they're not involved in. Right. So yeah, it may move the needle a little bit that campaign, but then you got to find somebody that then ones up that to keep that in that, So really, I think that there's kind of a nice balance of having somebody who's popular artist on Kickstarter, but also who does a great job that says that cover is amazing, right? You almost want to be to the point where like, I don't know which one's the best cover that I have, situation like that. People are like, oh, I want them all. They're so good. You know what I mean? Like that's almost like one that'll help with your, average pledge, but also like, if people like in general just are attracted to a cover, like how many times you walk into a comic shop and you say, I like that cover, I'm going to check this book out, because that's really the first thing people see before they pick it up and then look inside. Right. But and I know you have your pages as well on the site, so it's like not one of those things where it's like you're just hiding behind the cover,
Yeah.
So are we answering this question now?
I think we've been kind of answering them.
I don't know if Josh has had a chance. An opportunity.
Honestly, you guys are more successful at Kickstarter than I am, so I'm basically just trying to absorb everything. The one thing I would say about the variant covers is sometimes if you have an artist and they have a fan base, those people might not be comic book readers. They just like the art. So you're not actually even getting a chance to get your story into their head. They're just buying that art, basically. Maybe. I don't know.
There are some who chase art and don't read, but does anybody else have anything for Scott, particularly about bringing in new audience to this Kickstarter running?
Yeah, just work with different artists on each campaign too. Bring in new people. That's my whole thing, is try to bring in new people and I don't know, rotate the people through that way, I guess, and hope they stay for you.
Well, one of the other things that you could try, we've discussed it earlier, is like, have you done update swaps with other creators?
Yeah. So, one of my strategies, whether it's worked or not, debatable, has been to focus on Kickstarter platform itself. So usually when I do a campaign, I'll be doing update swaps every other day for the whole campaign. I usually do a couple people each update. So with a typical campaign of mine, I'll be doing update swaps with 25 to 30 people over the course of the campaign. And because my thought is rather than try and drive people to Kickstarter, why not target the people that are already on Kickstarter to buy comic books? And it feels like, and I don't have the the data for this really, but it feels like the last year and a half that's been a lot less successful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that is the case too. I also feel like the economy has a lot to do with that in general, because I feel like no matter what level you're at, you kind of like we've been feeling that, especially when it comes to like people. I think they're used to it now, saying, "Oh, we see other people's things, all the time." Like that's not like a new trick, It's almost old hat that they probably don't even acknowledge it. That's why I think when we taking the next step and doing a cross collaboration item. That helps. But then I feel like that also kind of has, kind of hit a flatline plateau, if you will. So I think it's, just experimenting with new things, is kind of like where that, people have their audience. Sometimes they're just like, well, I'm only here to back this guy. Other people are there. One of my backers, I follow her. And I swear to God, she's backing campaign after campaign after campaign. Because like I get the notifications on my phone. I'm like, where does she get this money from?
She might be independently wealthy, sir.
Yes, apparently, or just really likes independent comics.
Yeah. So for me, the cross promo hasn't been as helpful. I think, like you said, it just got a little bit over. People overdid it. You know what I mean? To the point where people were sending out like cross promo updates like almost every day, and it got to the point where people just stopped reading them. From listening to what you were saying, Scott, the big thing I would say is I would be a little bit more aggressive about trying to get emails for my newsletter. Do you do conventions at all?
Yes, not as many as I'd like, and it's something. It's actually a point of focus for me last year that I completely failed at. Is that I go to conventions, I sell the books, and then whether they like them or not, I never hear from them again because so I'm like, I want to focus on when I sell a book to someone to get them to sign up for my mailing list so that if they do like it, they're there.
That's the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I really haven't been doing that.
The newsletter, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you other than you need to. I would say the email address is almost more important than the $5 or $6 that they're giving you.
I would even say too, like try and put it in when you're giving your spiel, even when they're in the middle of doing kind of like the when they're checking out with you, right? There's that period of time where you're doing the transaction. Like let's say if you're doing just the cash or doing with the Square or whatever you use, there's that period where they're just standing there while you're like counting money or whatever. That you could be like, hey, while I'm doing this, would you like to sign up for my email list? And whether it's a clipboard or an iPad, which I think MailChimp, and I don't know if it's updated anymore or active, but I have on my old iPad that I use regularly, but it doesn't import like it used to. So I have to like manually import it. But MailChimp did have an app where you could have them just type in their information and then you have it there digitally. So that's something that they could be doing while you're checking them out. So they're not just standing there waiting for you, but they're actually doing something. So that would help in the process of getting them signed up. Or if they're about to walk away from a table, another nice thing is either having a postcard or a card with a QR code or a web address for them to go to your site and to sign up if they're not interested in doing it at the table.
Yeah, those are good ideas. It's something like I only do 4 or 5 shows a year, but it's something that I'm aware that I have not been a missed opportunity.
So something else. I mean, you were saying that you're with MailChimp, which I know has a maximum of 500 emails, which that's really going to hinder you. I would definitely sign up for one of the I don't even know what that's called. Like one of the newsletter softwares that
Substack?
don't have. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I didn't want to advertise specifically for Substack. I mean, that's what I use. But I mean, there's no reason to not use Substack because it's basically the exact same service, but there's no limit to it.
Yeah, I've been thinking about doing that. I just haven't looked into it yet. But it's, and once I get another 70 emails, I'll have to change something because I'll hit my limit. So
Yeah, or upgrade to the paid version, which at that point is
yeah.
I mean, like I said, I used to use MailChimp. I use Substack now. It's basically like literally the exact same service, except that there isn't the 500 email limit on it. So, I mean, there's no reason for you to pay the extra money every month.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely look into that.
Yeah. And the added benefit to Substack is you're not just, well, I know the way I use it, you can use it the way Grant is talking about it, but you can also write articles, just things about comics or whatever that interest you that may give added benefit to your fans. Like you said, you're really interested in back issues. So, you can always write an article on back issues, right? And that might intrigue some people, bring some people in that who normally maybe wouldn't read any of your comics, but they say, well, you know what? I like what he did here. I like what Scott did here. Let me give his book a shot, right? And maybe they'll back it because of that.
Or you could even write about because you said Quest is like kind of like for your love of D&D, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So you could write about D&D and then plug in the book.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you could be like, this is a portion of my quest, that you did during your campaign. So.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So I hope that helped. Anybody else?
So.
No.
Does anybody have anything else to add?
So, Rob, everybody has campaigns up. I'm going to pull up the campaigns. We're going to run through them real fast, guys. Real quick. So, quick elevator pitch, and then we're going to move on to the next person. All right? So, yep. There we go.
Oh, me first.
You first.
All right. Yeah. Cocaine Stripper Stronghold. It's as ridiculous as it sounds. Basically, this is the comic series, which is a 4-part prequel to a novel I wrote a couple years ago, where a horde of zombie businessmen and a biker gang attack a brothel because they like cocaine and strippers. Novel, every 1 or 2 cons would sell out, so I knew I couldn't let it die. So I wrote the 4-part comic series. Follows Jane as she goes from posh rich girl on a self-sustaining high-rise that is falling apart. So she has to be forced out into the world of zombies and learn how to survive. And I was able and fortunate enough and lucky enough to reach out to Mike DiCarlo from DC Comics, who did the cover and the flashback pages for me for this book. Got 3 different covers, got his pencils and inks, we got the Virgin cover, and then the trade dress. It's a fun book. It's a zombie comedy, but it's got pretty good character development as well, I believe.
All right, cool. Listen, man, it sounds funny.
Yeah, it's a good book. It came out really well.
Yeah, it looks good. I really like the Carlos covers. Obviously, he's a classic.
Oh, crushed it.
But your interior page is really nice as well.
Yeah, Cristiano Reyna, who's done all the Turkey Sharks books and everything previous to that. I brought him back to do all that, and he did the colors on the cover as well as the kind of monochromatic thing with the flashback pages to make them kind of stick out.
Gotcha. Okay. Listen, looks good. Your 21 backers, you're already funded.
Yeah.
20 days. Hopefully we can, get you like, I don't know, 5 times that amount, 10 times.
Yeah, it's so I mean the digital copy is $3, and if we get to, I think it's like $1,000, that adds on the indie bundle, which is 6 more books, and then that would also put in Turkey Sharks 1 and 2 digital. So even if you back it at $3, if we hit $1,000, you're gonna get 9 books for $3.
All right, good. So folks, go check that one out. Like I said, we're trying to do these quick. All right.
Hey, that's me. Yeah, so it's Cthulhu versus Uncle Sam. The premise is in the title if you're familiar with those characters, but it's America's first and greatest hero battling Cthulhu, the ultimate evil. It's set during World War II, and basically the Axis powers are trying to summon Cthulhu to win World War II, and Uncle Sam and his friends have to stop him. I basically packed it with all the like fun stuff that I could think of. So it's got time travel and talking dogs, and the Statue of Liberty is actually a giant mecha robot that battles Cthulhu at one point, and there's other dimensions, and professional wrestling is a big part of the plot for the first issue. Each issue is 32 pages, full color. And it basically sold out of the regular versions. So this Kickstarter is to do the new anniversary covers, which are designed to look like the Marvel Comics 25th anniversary covers from 1986. I've been putting out a line of those for all of my comics for the last year. We also have other variants. We got the propaganda poster variants, and we did some variants. Ryan Mendoza, who draws Miskatonic High, another Cthulhu centric title. He did the Adventures into the Unknown variants, which is an homage to the first horror comic, Adventures into the Unknown. Really excited. Samir Samau, who some of you may know, who does a lot of Kickstarter books, he did the anniversary covers, and he actually draws traditionally. So this is the first time I've had original art available, since he draws that way. And so we've got
for my comic.
Yeah, he's really good. So it's a perfect time to jump on board, pick up the first 2 issues. Samir is actually drawing issue 3 for me right now. We've had kind of a 2-year hiatus. I've been Jay Piscopo is the original artist, but I'm switching over to Samir at this point. So it's a great time to get on board and pick up the set of the new variant covers. It's also technically a make 100 because the variants are limited to 100 copies, pretty much all the different variants. That's the whole pitch. It's just a lot of fun, a lot of Uncle Sam and Golden Age public domain superheroes that I've sort of revived are fighting against Nazis and cultists and Cthulhu himself.
Very nice.
Well, you funded, you got 31 backers, you got 23 days, you got a lot of time to make some more bucks. Really good.
Yeah, I put in a lot of time so I could come on podcasts like this. I didn't want to end too soon. I wanted to have a chance to talk to people like you guys.
You're a lot smarter than me. All right. So Grant, here you go. Talk to us. Beowulf.
Yeah, so Beowulf, Grendel's Curse. This is the sequel / prequel, the comic book I put out last year. And yeah, it's 30 pages. We're doing really well. I was hoping to get halfway in the first 24 hours. That didn't quite happen. But basically, all you need to know is that in this one, he goes up against his 2 greatest foes, Grendel and Grendel's mother.
Very nice.
Specifically in issue number 1, he goes up against Grendel's mother.
All right, cool. And you got, it looks like, what, another 40 days?
Right.
All right. So you got another 40 days. You got 47 backers. You're almost halfway there. I don't think you're going to have an issue. Who's the artist on this cover? If you don't mind.
Let me, Mendoza. Sorry, let me look it up. I should remember this, but I'm bad with names. I should have known you were going to ask me. It is, I think, it's Daniel Mendoza.
Daniel Mendoza. Okay. Well, you did a really nice job. I mean, you always do a nice job on your interiors. So, all right.
Thanks.
Good job. All right. So I don't think you're gonna have an issue making that.
Yeah, I think we should be good. But thank you, and thank you for having me on your show.
Oh,
You're
you're
very
welcome.
welcome. Thank you for coming on, all of you.
Hold on. There's this other guy here. He has this thing.
Oh, that thing.
I'll look for that.
Yeah. So right now I'm running an experiment. I'm not actually on Kickstarter for once. I'm actually running a backer kit during their Pintopia and Plushies event. So this time it's for the new Snowpaw plush that goes along with the book and the Nightwolf plushes. And yeah, I got the whole team behind me as we speak. But yeah, so basically the premise is the two werewolf pups are going trick-or-treating, and their monster school classmates who happen to be witches are jealous of them, and there's more tricks than there are treats.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. Then let's see. Rob, your campaign is really long.
Aren't they always?
Yeah. All right. But I think you're almost there, right?
No, I'm more than halfway. I'm like
More than halfway, yeah.
almost 70%, I think.
Okay. How many days did you run it for?
It started last Thursday, so I think it's like
24 days?
Yeah, something like that. So it's Pintopia is like everybody launches at the same time and everybody ends on the same time. So that's why there's that bar there that it says there's 167 funded and 177 still funding. And then it shows like the total raised and the total backer accounts. And yeah, so yeah, it's an interesting, it's very like cross promotional heavy. So I'm also working with Tyler James with his C is for Cthulhu and the Attic Door Media team. They're basically you back both campaigns or all the campaigns, and then you get free pins.
All right, cool. Like I said again, I don't think you're gonna have an issue. I think you'll make it. So very nice. So this one is new though. The girl.
Yeah. The Snowpaw plush is the new one this time. All the others are already in hand and in stock. But this is funding for the new Snowpaw.
All right, cool. Very nice. Very nice. All right. So we got one left. Real quick. All right. So this is my book, The Oswald Chronicles, Passing Queens and Making Homes, issues 1 through 8, now in full color. Story about Oswald coming up in life as a young sorcerer, and him running into some friends and getting into some shenanigans, and that's all I'm gonna get into for now because it's really late and I gotta go to work tomorrow. But so there it is. But it's on Kickstarter for another 12 days. So there you go. Thank you, gentlemen. This was awesome. You guys are all great. Rob, do you have anything else to add to that?
Oh yeah. Thank you all for coming on and sharing your projects and your workshopping issues. I hate saying it's issues. I know just whatever. We like being able to bring you guys on and kind of workshop through things that you may be struggling with and kind of helping each other. That's why we do this. Yep. It's kind of our way of giving back to the community. And you guys are always welcome to come on, and we'll help you do stuff. And anybody out there who may also be struggling with something in the comic book industry, reach out to us, and we will get you on.
All right, cool. So to end the show, Scott, please let everybody know where they can find you and your works.
Sure. Well, you can find me on YouTube as the Classic Comic Collector. That's also my handle on TikTok. If you want to look at my comics, crimebustercomics.com will bring you to my website. And of course, you can also follow me on Kickstarter. My name there is Scott Harris, and the Cthulhu vs. Uncle Sam currently live.
Cool. Grant?
Yeah, I'm Grant Lankard on most of the social medias. I'm on Blue Sky now, Threads, Facebook. I'm not on Twitter because I hated it. I'm trying to think. And comicsburg.com.
All right, cool. Josh.
Yeah, I mean, Cutthroat Comics, pretty much mostly everywhere. TikTok, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, eBay. I'm also Cutthroat Comics on eBay if you like older comic books. And then, yeah, that's it.
All right, cool. Rob, where can we find you in your work, sir?
Yeah, so you can find me, and apparently my cat and my son. You can find me at Lone Wolf Comics, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok. I may not be as active on all of them, but you can find me there. You can also find me at Rob Multari on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. LoneWolfComics.com is my website. WolfpackPups.com is my other website. You can find the Kickstarter, well, I guess the backer kit. Wow, man, I'm so used to saying Kickstarter. You can find the backer kit for the latest Wolfpack Pups at snowpod.wolfpackpups.com.
All right, cool. I'm JD Calderon. You can find me on YalzoChronicles.com, TallTalesOnline.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those different places under that name. Sunday nights, doing Indie Comics Explained, talk about the business of comics. Every other Tuesday here with Rob, and on Kickstarter. So go check it out. And just remember, everybody, all of these creators are awesome. All of these creators are working hard, and they're all doing great books. All of the links to their books are in the chat. In the show notes. So please go click on those links. Go buy those books, all right? Because they're awesome, and they all deserve your support. So thank you so much for being here. And just remember, read more indie comics, especially ours. Thank you, and have a great night.
Thanks, guys.